Greetings, this is Dr. Giberson. In this brief video, I will be walking over some of the key concepts from chapters 1 and chapter 2. The key concepts listed on this first slide are 5 or so of those that you should be paying attention to, and several of these I will cover in the following slides. First one deals with stakeholders. Stakeholders are individuals or groups who have a stake, to coin a phrase, or a significant interest in the success or failure of an organization. You can see the 5 or so types of stakeholders that we typically think of, and oftentimes, if not most times, what we'll find is that the interests of stakeholders run contrary to each other. So for example, organization members such as employees, one of their interests would be to continue to have their wages and their income rise, as would anyone from a CEO all the way down to an entry-level worker. But owners and investors would have an interest in keeping those compensation costs very low in many cases. There are different business models that can accommodate either strategy. For example, we'll be reading about Costco versus Walmart. Walmart pays very low wages, Costco pays relatively higher wages, and Costco is actually on a per square foot basis much more profitable than Walmart is. So in other words, you don't necessarily have to pay low wages in order to achieve significant profitability, but each business takes its own approach to how it's going to run itself and how it is going to achieve profitability, hopefully. So some of the things I would like you to think about, and some of the issues that as you go into your career that you will be dealing with, are those competing interests between society, customers, employees, owners, investors, and so forth, and they do not always line up with each other. This next slide deals with the concept of strategy, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on strategy itself. However, the choice of strategy reflects a variety of different factors, such as the internal environment, it's the product line, or service line that the company offers, the type of technology that they have access to or don't have access to, and so forth. And it also deals with the external environment. How many competitors do they have? Is there government involvement? Is there a high demand or a low demand for the product? Is the product itself something that, as prices go down, people demand more of, or do people tend to demand it regardless of price? Another significant influence on strategy is the organization's leader or leadership team, the organization's culture and their assumptions. So for example, demand for our products was going down, our services going down, this is consulting. The owner didn't believe in advertising or marketing. He believed in what he called dialing for dollars. So what he would have his salespeople do is call up current clients, current organizations that we're doing work for, and offer them discounts on new services or training or whatever the case may be, because he didn't believe in advertising or marketing. So one of our approaches to market dealt with individual contact, whereas other organizations would go and buy billboards or get on the radio or whatever the case may be in order to come up with a marketing strategy, for example. So that's just one example of how someone's assumptions can influence our strategy. Most people think about strategy as falling into one of 4 or a combination of the following 4 approaches. We can focus on total quality, we can focus on low cost, we can focus on innovation or customer service, or some combination of those. One of the things I'd like you to do is think about example companies that follow each of these strategies. This next concept deals with competitive advantage. So, for example, companies may have a similar strategy, but it doesn't mean they have the same competitive advantage. So, a competitive advantage is when a company has an advantage over its competitors that's difficult for competitors to understand or to copy. So, an example of that would be, a great example would be Honda. Honda has a competitive advantage in engines, transmissions, exhaust. They started in actually small engines. They did not start out with cars. They started out with small engines, think lawnmowers and these sorts of things. Then they got very good at building engines and they thought, what else needs an engine? So they went into the motorcycle industry. Following that, they went into the car industry. Well, at least in my opinion, Honda cars have gotten better looking over the years. It wasn't too long ago where the cars were not terribly attractive, but you knew it would run forever and it would get very good gas mileage and be focused on safety. So Toyota focuses on quality and is a competitor of Honda. However, Toyota's engines and so forth are not nearly as are considered as reliable, fuel efficient, and not expected to have the same longevity as Honda. They set the industry standard. As a significant difference, Chrysler will outsource just about anything on their cars. They'll outsource the design of the engine. The Hemi, for example, many of them are built in Mexico, by suppliers, not even by Chrysler themselves. Honda would never do that. Honda would never, ever outsource the design or the building of its engines because that is what makes Honda Honda, and so they would never let go of that. Here are a list of companies. What is the competitive advantage? Again, something I'd like you to think about. And think about the strategy that each of these companies take to the market. Which of the four do they use? This next framework is explained in your book, but I have it up here because I do think it's important. What you have at the top of this this graphic here is the external environment. Then you have kind of the boundary there between the organization and the internal environment. And then you have on the left-hand side the organization's environment. You'll see the leadership, its strategy, technology, business strategy, and so forth. In the middle are all of the different types of human resource management activities that we engage in as HR professionals in order to assist the organization in achieving stakeholder objectives, which are listed on the right. And those are pretty important for you to think about on the right-hand side there, the different interests that different stakeholders and stakeholder groups might have in the organization. Now, way to think about it is you have the organizational environment again on the left. That's the HR activities, but there could be a marketing, there could be a business operations, there could be a sales, there could be accounting. Each of them have a whole list of activities that they engage in order to achieve those objectives. And the idea of working internally in an integrative fashion is to design an organization and lead an organization and create an organizational culture where the people and all the different functions and all the different activities all work together in order to achieve those objectives. And that is what makes running an organization successfully and profitably so difficult. Here, activities are the different things that we engage in as HR professionals to help achieve the organization's outcomes. Policies are those statements of expectations and aspirations. They could be dealing with compensation. It could be dealing with development of people. It could be dealing with how we evaluate people and hold them accountable, so forth and so on. So a policy is something that we say that we're going to do, and it could be the official way that we say we do things. But the point of this is, on the slide, is that how we actually do them modifies those policies. So it's kind of like a stop sign is the law. That's the policy, but a lot of people, at least in my experience, will kind of roll through the stop sign. So their behavior is kind of modifying that law until they get caught or until they get a ticket for it. Here's just a quick list of some sample HR policies and practices. Those that are underlined are those that are part of our project for the semester, and those that are bolded are those that we'll be touching on within this particular course. And if you look at some of the others and other courses that you've taken or will take in our program, most of these are covered. Quick concept here, human resource triad. We have specialized in technical knowledge, but line managers, those that supervise the actual employees who are doing the work, they have responsibility for managing, implementing, utilizing the tools and technology that we might provide them in order to help successfully manage and lead employees. And finally, you see in the bottom right there, the employees share responsibility for their own development, for their own careers, for their own success. Here is, again, a quick list of, and I think this is kind of interesting, survey done several years ago. What type of competencies do HR professionals need to be effective? And if you look what's up here, look at 2, 3, 4, and 5. Number 2, personal credibility is higher than business acumen, understanding of HR technology, and our ability to actually deliver our HR tools, activities, and support. And the top one there is actually an understanding of the organization strategy, where we're going, how we're going to get there, and the things that HR and I, as a contributor, need to do in order to help contribute to that. But that second one is the one that I think is really interesting, is that personal credibility, and how you engage yourself in this course and with your team and in your job and as you navigate your life. That has a lot to do with your personal credibility. I'm going to go through these next few slides very quickly, but ethical behavior, not that it's not important, but there's quite a bit in your book on this. Just understand that Society for Human Resource Management has a set of ethical behaviors or a code of ethics that should help inform and guide the way that we do our work. Part of the challenge of this, again, it's kind of like a policy versus implementation. There's interpretation, and what do these things mean? So what does it mean they're under expectations to respect the dignity of all employees? What does it mean to understand problems and maintain professionalism? Here's an excerpt, again, from the SHRM, or the Society for Human Resource Management Code of Ethical and Professional Standards. There is a SHRM chapter on campus, and those of you who are interested, I can give you more information, but I do strongly urge you to get involved with them. It's a good group. And the last key concept, managing change. Much of what we do and much we think about in HR is, on the one hand, is how do we maintain the status quo? How do we maintain the success that we're having? But the other side of it is, how do we manage change successfully? How do we help introduce new technologies as they come in? How do we get our employees ready to deal with those new technologies? How do we, two organizations coming together to merge together to create a new organization, how do we help successfully manage that merger to create a new organization with a new culture? How do we deal with the shortage of employees who, we might be able to get the numbers, we might have a lot of applicants, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are qualified. These are some of the key issues that we have to deal with within HR. Here's just a list of terms to remember. Chapter 1, and a few of those come out of Chapter 2. And again, this brief video was designed just to give a quick overview and a few examples of some of the key concepts from the first readings.